Now that we've entered the year 2026, as crazy as that sounds, this phone right here is now 15 years old. Not only is this my favorite phone of my old smartphone collection, but this is also the last smartphone that Steve Jobs would ever release. Now in 2023, I bought this 4S from a Brazilian market for $16, and since I'm back in Brazil, I figured just like I did in 2023, I may as well see how usable the iPhone 4S is in 2026. I'm currently in southeast Brazil, in the state of Santa Catarina, and I've brought this iPhone 4S along with me for my adventures, specifically to see how usable this thing is in the year 2026. Now, before we get too far into this, I need to talk about a couple things. First things first, I know there's a crack in the screen. I love the crack, I'll explain that later. Second, these marks on my hand, my wife and I went diving without gloves, absolutely wrecked this hand, but hey, we got to hang out with one of our friends named Dimmy. He's a river guide, but he does just about everything. And the second thing is, I jailbroke this iPhone 4S, and I downgraded the software to iOS 6. In my 2023 video, this phone was running iOS 9, and it didn't run as smoothly, so I decided to jailbreak this phone. This made it easier to downgrade the phone, sideload apps, run smoother, and I have iOS 6.1.3, which is way more nostalgic than iOS 9. Little did I know that the jailbreak would cause some issues, which I'll talk about in a bit, but what would this video be without us cherishing the form factor of this freaking phone? Times have changed. Look at the freaking hole in this thing to charge. Oh my gosh. I've gotta say, I love this stainless steel band and the physical SIM. You're telling me we've gone from this to wireless charging in 15 years. Also got a question, why did we get rid of the round buttons? And we didn't even have a camera bump. I mean, come on, 8 megapixels is good enough, right? Let's start answering some questions. So, can you make a phone call on the iPhone 4S in 2026? Can you use this as a phone? Well, that's going to depend on where you live in the world. If you live in the United States of America, you are SOL. Considering the iPhone 4S was designed for 3G networks, that doesn't exist in the United States anymore. But it does in Brazil. So I went to a grocery store and got a Claro chip. Well, check that. My wife went to the grocery store and got a Claro chip. Because I'm a gringo and I don't have a CPF number. A CPF number is kind of like a social security number, the way it's used in the US, but it's applied more to like identity, taxes, credit and fraud control, and everyday transactions. Look, it's mostly used for taxes because Brazil loves to collect that sweet tax. And as simple as a SIM packet seems, it is so much harder when it's not in English. So I had to have Danny put minutes on this thing just so I could have service, and it took for freaking ever, bro. Then this random car drove by. What's interesting about this is in 2023, when I put my T-Mobile international SIM into this phone, I was able to simply make phone calls on Claro. Actually, it was Vivo. But recently I switched over to the iPhone 17, and in the US I was forced into switching over to eSIM, so I can't do that anymore. Long story short, after some help from Danny and her father, we were able to put some minutes on the phone, and look at that, I've got Claro service. Yeah, baby. But I wish it was that easy, bro. Now, this is where you brilliant YouTube watchers might be able to come in and help me, but what's so odd is when I tried to use any application on the phone that used location, which I did turn location on, the phone would essentially just error out. For example, when I went to the weather app and wanted to look at the 90-degree weather with the 75% humidity, it wouldn't show anything, which would actually be really handy in southeast Brazil, considering one moment is 100 degrees and 10 minutes later, the streets are flooding. Now, I'm going to come back to the network thing, but one thing that I love about this phone is the nostalgic filming you can do on this. The 4S came stock with a whopping 8 megapixel rear camera, but 8 megapixels is just enough to take some nostalgic photo and video. And if you guys remember, the iPhone 4, this phone's predecessor, introduced the front-facing camera for selfies. So of course, the iPhone 4S also has that feature. Quality's a little grainy, I look a little too excited, but hey, not too shabby. To test the video quality of this beast, I figured I'd bring it along to our hike. This hike leads to Praia de Naufragados, which is on the very south end of Florianopolis, Brazil. The 4S can actually record in 1080p at 30 frames per second, and as you can see, it doesn't have video stabilization, which is what gives it that nostalgic look. By the way, the beach you're seeing here is Praia de Naufragados, my favorite beach in Brazil. Naufragados means castaway. With this beach being so remote, it's definitely a fitting name. Also, fun fact, on the trail leading to this beach is where I got bit by a monkey in 2023, which led to a month stay and many rabies vaccinations later. Here's a still photo taken on the rear camera of the iPhone 4S, and here's a random doll I found in a thrift store, but this is in Utah. So let's talk about some other issues I ran into with the 4S, and I believe it's because it's jailbroken. I reset the time zones and tried to set it automatically, but it wouldn't work. It wasn't just the weather app that I couldn't get this thing to connect to, it also would not connect to Wi-Fi, which is odd because just a week ago I was connecting to the Wi-Fi on my home network in Utah, USA. So I figured I would raw dog it and just use the Claro network to go to Safari, which did work, but holy crap, it was so slow. I just did a random search funny into the Safari search to see what would pull up. And oddly, it didn't really parse a Safari search, it just brought me to this random website called Funny. And because the page didn't fully load, it just led to this endless scroll. And honestly, at this point, I was thinking, okay, I think it's the jailbreak that's kind of destroyed this phone from connecting to Wi-Fi or using the Claro network properly. And out of frustration, I said, okay, we need to go outside and show these guys that this phone is good for something. Then I thought I saw Jose Aldo in the neighborhood, but I was just seeing things. But yeah, gaming is really where the 4S stands out, especially if you're going to jailbreak it and sideload OG applications. I swear this phone is the best airplane companion. I've got a bunch of folders with applications just like this that I can play seriously for hours while I'm on a plane ride. And most of these OG apps, because they're before that time of monetized games, you don't have to deal with all of the freaking advertisements. If you guys want me to give you a guide on how to jailbreak an iPhone 4S, be sure to comment below and I will for sure do that for you guys. Also, if you guys have any ideas on why this is so difficult to do like a Safari search or even to pull up local apps like weather, please comment some guidance below. I would really appreciate it. Now, here's where all of this gets really confusing. Sending text messages. 100% would send if I had a normal working SIM card. But somewhere in the settings, the location, or the jailbreak, the configuration's not allowing me to send a measly text, which is a bit frustrating because it's 100%, like I said, it's not a limitation of the iPhone 4S. I even opened messages directly from Claro. I thought if I sent a text here, I would get one of those automated messages, right? At least that's what I thought, but I just got these not delivered notifications on both texts I tried to send. What the heck? I tried going to Safari again and searching for Google, and the good news is that it did parse a result this time. The bad news is when I tried to do an actual Google search for my classic Johnzoid search, not only was that search very slow, but once it finally loaded, I had this notification that read, Actualize o navegador, which is even made more difficult because I jailbreak the phone and downloading apps is just a different process now. Sadly, at this point, I wasn't able to use the 4S for much on this trip other than playing games and taking some cool shots. In good lighting, especially with still photo, this phone actually takes really good photos. Like even on this shot, if we zoom in, that's a wallpaper tier photo. Then there's this photo here. I intended to take a photo of the landscape, little did I realize there were so many women in the foreground. Ah, there we go, much better. With these side-loaded applications, I noticed that the phone runs it much smoother in comparison to if I was running iOS 9 on this 4S. I haven't been able to use this phone for the 2 years I've had it at home in the US and was super excited to bring this to Brazil. But sadly, I can't use it for much more than for gaming, like I already have at home. That being said, I have so much fun just for the games on this phone that it's still worth the jailbreak and having the iPhone 4S as a little gaming pocket device. You name the game, I probably have it either in a file folder or on this phone. On the phone, I've got about 40 games that I play on here, And if I'm just playing games straight up, I can seriously get a few hours of gaming on this thing before it gets to a point where I need to charge it. A game like Iron Man 2 that you're seeing here, this is a pretty demanding game, but if you're playing a game like Temple Run, I mean, that's going to use hardly any battery at all. Matter of fact, now I think about it, I charged this phone like once and I took it with us everywhere. We went to like 4 beaches this week, several hikes, several boating trips, and this thing is still clunking along. Now, of course, I do need to add that that is in standby. It's not like I'm daily driving this, I just have it on in my bag. And considering it's not pulling the cellular network correctly, I guess it does make sense that the battery's still so high after a full week of this thing being on. I'm pretty sure my in-laws think I'm a little kooky because we're sitting on an island all together. I'm sitting here crisscross applesauce recording an iPhone 4S with my iPhone. Well, hey, you know what? I'm committed to the game, alright guys? I'm kidding. My in-laws are awesome, but they do know I am a little bit kooky up top. So to answer the question, is an iPhone 4S usable in 2026? If it weren't for me having these issues, you can use an iPhone 4S as a daily driver phone. I wouldn't recommend it. But yeah, you can technically use it for call and text if you are on a 3G network and if the iPhone 4S is compatible on that network. Just remember that there is zero support for this phone. iOS updates and security patches are far gone. But if you wanted to use this phone simply for the nostalgia and just the kicks and giggles, you could do that. And honestly, if the Claro SIM card had worked, I would have daily driven this phone for a full 2 weeks. Sadly, that wasn't the case, and this was my travel buddy that I was able to play games all week while I was on the beach and hiking. I'm curious, did any of you guys daily drive the iPhone 4S? Did any of these games give you a shot of nostalgia? Or maybe it was iOS 6 that made you feel that. Or maybe it was the video while I was recording the hikes and being on the beach. Or if it's something else, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you guys. I seriously appreciate you guys taking the time to watch the video and making this entire channel possible. If there's a specific phone you guys want to see, or a video concept or idea that you want to see, feel free to comment below. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. I love this phone and I love Brazil. Happy New Year to everyone. I'm looking forward to a really exciting year with you guys, and I'm looking forward to everything that this year is going to bring. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. If you want to see more videos just like this, be sure to subscribe. And if I'm lucky, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Oh yeah, last thing. You guys know how I said I love the crack in the screen and I haven't fixed it for the 2 years that I've owned the 4S? It's one of those things that reminds me of a really exciting time, which was in 2023 when I bought this from a cell phone market. I just thought it was hilarious that they sold this to me for $16 when the screen was cracked, and I didn't see any reason to fix it because it adds personality to this phone. Anyways, thanks guys for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one. See ya.